Okay, we're now recording. Welcome to METRANS Drupal website training for content editors part 2. I want to briefly review what we talked about in training part 1. Let's see, we talked about, well, I introduced the site generally. Wait, hang on a second, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, I introduced the site generally, and we talked about the fact that there's organizationally there's METRANS as the larger entity, and within that we have what we're calling entity centers. There are 3 of those. There's METRANS UTC, Metro Freight, and National Center for Sustainable Transportation. And that becomes relevant when you're entering certain types of content, such as news and events, which would be specific to one of those 4 entity centers. But let me just reintroduce you to the dashboard. We did mention in training part 1 that in order to log into the system, you add /user to the URL. So it would be, you'll notice here that it says metransurbaninsight.com. When the site goes live, it will be www.metrans.org. But as long as we're in development and content editing mode before launch, the URL will be this. But the point is that if you add a /user to the URL and hit enter, you'll get the login screen. So I have an editor account called Kurt Editor, which I'll log in with. And then this brings us to the dashboard, which provides most of the functionality or links to most of the functionality that you'll need when you're either adding or editing content on the METRANS website. So just going from top to bottom, the first link just is, for convenience, takes you to the home page. We have 2 links for, we call them under the subtitle of existing content. There's 2 ways of looking for content, of searching for content on the site from the dashboard. There's content management, which lists content on the site, and this always lists the most recent content first. So I actually just edited this About METRANS page, so that's why it's showing at the top. And it shows you the date and time that each content item was entered. This screen lets me sort by title if it's helpful, or sort by type, content type, by status, which would be published or unpublished, or by date. But I can also filter by the type of content I'm looking for. So for instance, if I know that what I'm looking for is an event, I can say search for filter just and show me events. The one feature that's missing here, and this is native to Drupal, this content management feature, the one function that's missing here is the ability to actually search. So we always add that feature because it's highly useful. So from the dashboard, we've added another link called Content Search, which looks much the same. It lets me sort columns by title or content type, but then it also lets me search by title or content in the description. So if I look for, is there something with transportation in the name? Yes, there's plenty of things with transportation in the name. If I wanted to get more specific, I could say transportation, let's see, development. And there's nothing with that. Let me just look for something I know it's going to find. Transportation vehicle. So that narrows it down for me pretty specifically. So that's a handy feature I just wanted to remind you about. We talked about the fact that there are different content types within Drupal, meaning, or for example, like an event is a content type. And what that means is that an event has a set of fields that's associated with it and a content that's expected to be entered as part of an event. Let's see. News, we call this one content type called news announcement, meaning it covers both functions. It could be a news item or an announcement. Functionally, it's the same thing. And what I pointed out is that, and I've mentioned already, that that certain content types like news items and events need to be associated with a specific entity center. So that's part of the input process for content types such as news and events. I did want to show you just one kind of cool feature here that was not enabled before, but for events, I mean, one of the pieces of information that you enter, of course, is the location of the event. And what we automatically do is we display a Google map for it. So in this case, it's LA City Hall. And based on that information, it displays this map. And when I click on the map, I get the full Google page for that. And I can do things like ask it to give me the directions, from where I am to that location. So that's a cool feature that, as I said, wasn't working when I presented the first training. Let's see. So we talked about specifying the entity center, and we talked about the WYSIWYG. I'm not going to go into a lot of information about this again, but just briefly, it's WYSIWYG means what you see is what you get editor. And for text editing, it enables you to do basic things like making your content, your text bold or italic or underlined, standard formatting. I can add a link if I want to link something to a specific page within the site or another website. I can highlight it and click the link button, and that lets me input the link information. We talked about how you would add an image to a content item, which would include uploading the image via this function down here, which is called add new file. It lets me browse for the image and then upload it. And then I can take the URL that it gives me after it's uploaded and ask it to display that image as part of my content. I'm just going to cancel out of this now. And we did talk briefly about the different format types that are or formatting options that are available with the drop down over here, that it lets me apply different header styles and sizes to sections within my content if I need to do that. The styles let's see, that would apply to, let me actually add that image. Styles actually applies to images in that if I don't do anything else, it just puts it where I may or may not want it. But what style enables me to do is to, for instance, right justify my image within the content, as opposed to just, I didn't quite get that right, but the point is that what I was just able to do with that style drop down is to position my image on the right side of the page versus letting it float freeform above. The other option I have is to position it on the left side of the page. Okay, and let's see. We talked briefly about, or not briefly, but last time we talked about how to add a menu item to a page. There's sort of two different ways to do that. If I'm in an existing page, say key personnel, and I'm editing it, there's a section at the bottom of the input form that tells me, or lets me tell the system to provide a menu link. I can specify the title. The default for the title, the default for the title is the same as the page title, but I can change the menu title if I want down here, and it lets me select where within the menu structure I'd like it to appear. And that's pretty much all I need to know. Sometimes the item won't appear where you think it's going to, and the way around that is to go to the dashboard, and if you click main menu, it shows you the entire menu structure. And for instance, if I had wanted advisory board to appear above key personnel, I could just drag and drop and resave it. And that will have fixed that issue. So that's in a nutshell what we talked about in training part 1. What I want to talk about today is we want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about projects and researchers and how those are entered, but primarily how they're transferred from the existing system to the new system. We'll talk about the searchable goods movement timeline database and how to enter content into that. I'll show you how to embed a YouTube video into a page, and I'll show you how to create a slideshow, which you would also could also then embed into a page. So let's talk about research projects and researchers. Researchers are also referred to as PIs and co-PIs. And the site in the content management system, they're labeled as researchers. But just know that researchers are also PIs and co-PIs. Let's see. So a little bit of background on, oops, hang on a second, let people know I'm in a meeting. Take a look at the old site. Okay, so on the current live site, there's a list of researchers which we've transferred directly over to the new site. So all of the entries on the old site have been transferred to the new site. And I can show you that by demoing that. So if I list researchers, actually the only thing that I noticed here is that we have them organized or sorted by first name. It should probably be last name, and we need to fix that.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
That's easy enough to do.
I have a question. I have a question on this one. When we're talking about right now, these are all METRANS researchers, and then there is going to be Metro Freight researchers and National Center researchers. Will those be in different places, or is everybody going to be here?
My understanding is that everybody will be here.
Okay.
But the research projects themselves will show up within each entity center.
Okay, but all researchers will be under the research center.
Right,
okay.
Right. Let's see. So, and then on the existing site, of course, we have the research projects themselves. And a research project on the current site consists of, there's a database record that represents this information, which is the topic area. It includes the project number, it includes the PI names and the name of the research project. And if you click through the project number, you get a page, an HTML page, which gives you the detail for the project. Now, just for background purposes, what I want to explain is that the information you see on this page all exists in a database in the current site. The information that you see, oops, not there. The information that you see in this page resides in an HTML, a static HTML page that's maintained with Dreamweaver. And the reason I'm pointing this out is that we, as the development team, are able to transfer all of the database information relatively easily. And unfortunately, the rest of the body of the project needs to be transferred manually one by one. We started with 2000. Well, we started with the most recent projects on the current site, and we worked backwards, and we've got them entered through or back through 2010. So there will be an effort to transfer the remaining content for the remaining projects. But just to clarify that, I did mention that research projects were represented by both a database entry and an HTML page content. And so what I want to show you is that because some of the information is represented by a database entry, we were able to transfer all of the database entries to the system. So basically, all of his projects historically for METRANS are represented on the new site. But as I also mentioned, we have entered content for sites beginning with the most, for research projects, beginning with the most recent ones, and such as noise mapping of container terminals at the port of, that should be Los Angeles. And you'll notice that this has full information for this particular research project. Let me show you one that is not complete. So here's a project that was dated, well, it's from 2009. And this illustrates the information that we were able to transfer over from the current database of information, and by contrast it illustrates what's not there. Let me just show you by comparison. What's not there is everything effectively from project description down. So there's this chunk of data that needs to be transferred over from the old site to the new site, and I will show you how to do that. It looks like a complicated process, but once you've done it once or twice, it becomes actually pretty easy. So the example I'm going to use is, I'm going to use the first entry for, I think, let me see. This, you said we went through, yeah, so we went through 2010. So this is one of the projects for 2010, and it has all of its content. So if you see project objective and lots of text below that, it means that the content has been transferred. And the one I'd like to use as an example is the most recent project in 2009, Spatial Mismatch and Transit Choice Among Immigrants. And if I go here, you can see that I don't have the project body content. I'll show you how to get that. So if I go to the current site and look at the list of research projects, I'm going to go by the same number. So it's spatial mismatch and transit choice among immigrants. So it's this project that I need to get the body for and transfer. So if I'm working with Dreamweaver, I can use that to open the HTML page, which if I went into Dreamweaver and looked for this, I could find it. It's called 09-30-.htm. If I don't have Dreamweaver, I can look at the page source, which is a raw view of the HTML for the page, which doesn't look pretty, but like I said, once you've done it once or twice, you realize it's relatively easy to transfer, grab the content and transfer it. So I'm working on a Windows PC with Firefox, and the way I view source on this is to do a right-click to get this menu, and I click View Page Source, and then I get a very busy screen with lots of text in it with HTML. But what I'm going to do, because I know that the content I'm looking for begins with project objective, I'm just going to do a search for that. Project objective. And suddenly there I am. It takes me right to where I need to be. And as I've explained in the documentation in the manual, what I need to do is I need to copy this chunk of text and HTML beginning with this P, which means paragraph, before project objective. And this is going to be true for all research projects. I'm going to copy from there down to this P here, which is the last paragraph closing before this tag that says instance and editable. And so what I've done right here is I've highlighted all the content I need to copy from that page into the new site. So I'm going to do a copy. And I'm going to leave it open and push it out of the way. And then I'm going to come over to this browser window, which is displaying the research project that I need to add the content to. I'm going to click Edit, and then I'm going to come down to Body. You'll notice that it has a piece of text in it, which is just for holding purposes, but what I need to do is click Disable Rich Text, and what that does is it shows me the content of this page in HTML format, which is what I want to see because I'm going to paste into it a big chunk of HTML. First I'm just going to highlight it and get rid of that, and then I'm going to paste in what I just copied from the source for the other page. And I'm going to save it. And now I have that content. I've added that to the research project 0930 Spatial Mismatch in Transit Choice Among Immigrants. Now I may look at this and think, I need to tweak it a little bit, and I'm perfectly free to do that. I think I'd really prefer that be capitalized, and if I wish I can come in and I can change some of the formatting if I so choose. I can change the style of that. Actually, that's a thing I made a note of this in the manual also. Sometimes you'll see what I just illustrated, which I go to change the formatting on something and it changes the formatting in a much bigger chunk of text than I really intended it to. And the way around that is to add a couple of spaces, go back, and apply that, and then get rid of the spaces. That's just a WYSIWYG thing. Anyway, the point is that once you transfer that chunk of HTML content over into a research project, you're free to update it as necessary. So there's the change that I had made. So that's pretty much it for transferring content for research projects from the old site to the new site. Again, probably the most messy part is like having to look at all this HTML, but once you know what to look for, which is project number, then the content that you need to transfer over is relatively evident when you know that the last thing you need to look for is this tag that says instance and editable. So it's everything between those two tags that you need to grab. So, okay, and what I want to show you then also is how to enter a new research project. And that will also show you the relationship between researchers and projects. So let's see. Okay, the entry for a new project is pretty straightforward. It's the same form that we just saw that we pasted content into. It's just that you're starting off with a blank form. And research project. And I have to tell it which entity center this project belongs to, what year it's in. Let's say, well, this is 2014. I'm just going to make up some information. Project number 123, Kurt's project, and let me get some content to paste into that. I'm not going to get too fancy here. One of the things it asks me to select is a topic area. That's a required field. And then below that, it asks me for the PI and the co-PI. And as I said, these are researchers. And what this enables me to do is actually I can start entering the name of a researcher or some of the text that's contained within the researcher name, and a list of names will show up for me. So just by typing the letters A-N, I get a list of all of the researchers whose names contain that sequence of letters. So let's select Jen. There may or may not be a co-PI for a site, I mean for a research project, and if there's not, you don't enter one. Oh, let me just show you that there.
Can I ask you a quick question, Kurt?
Sure.
Under topic area, because you picked METRANS, did these are the METRANS topics. If we picked Metro Freight, would the Metro Freight topic areas pop up?
It's not currently configured to do that. We're still talking about topic areas, and we need to get the remaining topic areas from Jen, but currently it's not sensitive to which entity center was selected. So what I'm showing you here is that there may or may not be an additional PI, but sometimes there's multiple PIs and sometimes there's multiple co-PIs. Let's see if there's anybody named Bob. No, there's nobody named Bob.
Anastasios. A-N-A.
Nope, there's Anastasios. Okay, so that's how I find Anastasios. I'll just show you that much right now, and I'll say that because what I want to show you is that for my two PIs, it's pulled in certain information for them. So for Jen and for Anastasios, it's pulled in the organization they're affiliated with and their title. I'll show you a little more detail about researcher information when we look at the content entry form for researchers. But what I want to show you,
because one thing I can tell you is that all of that's probably going to need to be updated, because I think that was, you know, those were input over a period of time, and probably quite a bit of those need to be updated. With information. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, should we wait to update it in the new or do it in the old?
I say wait to do it in the new.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, what was I going to show you here? So we talked about entering a PI and a co-PI. So if the project were complete, I could just select that button. And where that would be relevant, let me just go to the new site again, is if I'm searching for content or searching for projects. Let's take you to the list page. One of the things I can do is I can select, I can filter by whether something's in progress or whether it's complete. And currently on the site, everything is complete. So if I select that, I'm going to get all of the projects on the site. But if I select in progress, I should get, oh, okay, what I'm getting is the one that I just entered because I haven't saved it as complete.
Okay, and complete means complete where you've saved everything and said you're finished entering the information?
Oh, no, complete means that the project itself has been completed. It means it's over.
Okay.
And typically what that also means is that there's a report that's been submitted for it, and it's in a PDF format, which will be added to the project here. So
okay.
I could say browse for, let's see if I had the PDF. I'm going to just upload the training manual for that. I'm going to leave it as incomplete.
So we have some that are, the time frame is over but do not have final reports, so they could still, that would still be considered complete?
Well, I mean, it's up to,
okay,
I guess
so
it's up to you. I mean, either mark it
okay,
complete or not complete. So in this case, I've attached a report, but I have not marked it complete. So that's, you know, that's your
is the complete, the complete's mainly for, and that is for searching?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because I've added that PDF, I get an extra entry on my display which says project report, and I can click on the PDF and it brings it up, which in this case is our content manual. Okay, so let me show you researchers. So we looked at the researchers list page, which we noted needs to be alphabetized by last name. And let me show you how to enter a new researcher. So I'm going to go to the dashboard, and I am going to select researcher, create new content items, and I'll so the title in this case is the person's full name, and then for sorting purposes we require that you enter the first name and the last name separately. And I don't have a suffix. I can browse for an image of myself.
So that's a little confusing. Title means the whole name.
Yeah, yeah. So
and you break it down.
Title is the person's name as it will appear on the page, and first name and last name are for sorting purposes, so that we can, in this instance, we'll need to sort by last name.
Okay.
So by entering it as a title, see, it won't be able to tell me, it won't be able to sort by last name based on the title because all it sees is one string there. So I can upload this image that I provided, and I can give my organization. It supports 2 titles if somebody has 2 titles. Address information. Phone number. This is just basic information, but I do want to show you that how this information gets displayed. Oh, okay. This is an extraneous field. Let me just save this. Now, when you save the information for a researcher, you're going to see a page that doesn't look like it's ready for public viewing, and that's because it's not viewed by the public. This is an unformatted page with the information that I just entered. If I go to researchers and look for the person I just entered, let's see, so it would be under K. Here he is. Oh, okay. Actually, I've got my entries myself entered multiple times. So this is actually the information that I entered just now. It shows the name, Kurt Researcher, my organization, and my two titles. It's not showing me for any projects right now because I'm not associated with any projects, and I'll also show you how to do that as well. And I'll also show you where the additional information that I entered will appear. So let's go to that project. Okay, but the point I started to make is that this screen, the screen you saw with all of the giant image and the unformatted text for researcher is not something that the public sees. They only see this chunk of information here, or the information presented for a presenter, a researcher on a project page. Let me show you what that would look like. So I'm going to go to the test project that I just created, and I'm going to add Kurt Researcher. I think I'm going to get rid of Jen and Anastasio. So I type in Kurt and I get both my full name. I get Kurt Palmer, Kurt Rademacher's, and Kurt Researcher. Kurt Researcher is the person I want to see. Let me save this. And so now, now I see all of that information that that I entered, and I'm getting phone extraneously. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this. So we can fix this. But the point is that this is the other place where information about that researcher automatically appears because I entered it in the entry, in the content item for that researcher. And I think that pretty much covers it for research projects and researchers. Let me just look at my notes. I think that's it. Do you guys have any questions about research projects or researchers? Okay, let's look at the Searchable Goods Movement Timeline database. So this is a feature that you can access either.
And Savannah, this is the thing you're going to talk to
Tom O'Brien?
Well, Tom or the Sharon who's been working on it. Savannah's going to take this over from her, so I'm just letting her know.
Okay. So the Searchable Goods Movement Timeline database is, you can get to it either from the menu system, or there's actually a link to it from the home page. And at the bottom here, which if I click on that, it takes me to the same page. It's another list of items which I can search for. I can search through based on keyword. They're all associated with a publication. We've migrated all of those over to the current system, along with the content for each item. So let me show you how you would enter a new item for the Searchable Goods Movement Timeline database. I go back to my dashboard, and under Create New Content Items, I select Searchable Goods Movement Timeline Database Timeline Event. And let me just bring up my sample content for this. Okay. So in every instance, an item in this part of the website refers to an article that was published elsewhere. In this case, I've taken the example of an article that was published in the LA Times. Why are you not showing? Okay. Doesn't seem to be available in the LA Times anymore. Let me just find another article. Well, let's just pretend this article about Donald Sterling has something to do with goods movement. The point is that I'm going to take the article title and a quick summary of the article and transfer it into an entry in the Searchable Goods Timeline database. So I'm going to need a title, which would be the title of the article. And I'm just going to copy and paste it from here and paste it into the headline. And I can set a date for it. I'm going to say, well, in fact, it was published today, so I'm going to leave it today's date on it. And what's indicated as a body here is really a summary of the article that you can choose to distill from the article, or in this case, I'm just going to take the first paragraph. Now what I'm going to do before I do that actually is I'm going to clean up what I just copied and pasted by pasting it into Notebook. We talked about this a little bit in training 1, that sometimes when you try to copy something from Word or from another website, it can be kind of messy in the way to, if you just need plain old text, you can run it through Notepad on the Windows PC or the text editor on a Mac to clean it up. So basically what I've done is I've just created some clean text that I can paste out of there and put into my input screen for this item. If I choose to, I can include the actual article link. I noticed when I talked to Tom O'Brien, he says frequently this is not included because probably for what I just illustrated, sometimes these go away and you end up with dead links on the website. So frequently, and you follow his direction on this, there is no article link for an entry into the Searchable Goods Movement Timeline database. You would supply a source, though, so that it knows where so you can attribute where you got the article from, in this case, the LA Times, Los Angeles Times. And that's really it. So I can save that. Now again, this is a case of I'm looking at a page that the public never sees, and so it's not formatted. But if I go to Searchable Goods Movement Timeline Database, I should see, Okay, I should see article. Why do I not see my article? Hmm. Do a search. Let's see if it comes up. Okay, so it's a great thing about demos and trainings is if there's a bug in the system, it'll come to the surface right away. Anyway, if this had worked, we would have seen an entry for the article that I just entered that would include a link to that article if I chose to enter it, and also a link to the home page of the source that I took it from. So in the illustration that you're seeing, this particular article came from the Los Angeles Times. So if I click on the Los Angeles Times, it just takes me to the home page for that publication. Okay, I'm making a note about the latest bug. And we'll fix that. Okay. Okay, if there are no questions about that, what I'd like to do is move on to showing you how to embed a YouTube video into a page. I've got what we did was we created a page on the website that actually provides illustrations of some of the things that we've talked about. And I created a page into which I can insert a video. Right now it doesn't have the video because I want to show you how I go about getting it and inserting it. So there's a video on YouTube which I know exists, which is a presentation by Jen called "Making Hay: The Future of U.S. Competitiveness." You know, and I think my machine, I'm not sure why we're not seeing, oh, there it is, there's the image. Okay, so that's the video I want to insert into a page on the METRANS website. And so when I go to this video on YouTube, there's an option that says share. So I click on that, and what it does is it shows me, among other things, this URL down here that's highlighted in blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that out of there, and then I'm going to come back to my video page. So this is the page that I would like to insert the video into. So I'm going to edit the page, and just as I would for an image, what I want to do is I want to position my cursor on the page where I'd like the video to appear. So in this case, I want it to appear below the text, so I put my cursor there. And then there's a function on the toolbar called Video Filter, which if I click on it, I see this pop-up window, and I can paste the URL that I just copied from YouTube into the field that says Video URL, and I click the Insert button. And in the WYSIWYG, what I see is this thing that looks like this bracket that says Video and the URL. But if I save it, I should see what I want, which is the video pasted into the page. So that's actually a pretty simple process when you need to do it. Okay. The other thing I want to show you is that this is a feature that doesn't exist on the current website, but could be handy for any number of things. But we included the ability to create and insert a slideshow as an item in a web page, sort of the way I would insert a video the way I just did. So if I had a page and I wanted to include a slideshow, I could insert it, and I'll show you how to do that. So if I go to Dashboard and I say I want to create a slideshow, input screen is similar to other things I've seen. I'm going to give the slideshow a name, and in this case the name doesn't get shown to the public, but it's something that's going to appear in my list, my content item list, so I know what to look for, and let's just call it Kurt's Slideshow. And it asks me for 3 things for each image that I want to use as a slide. It asks me for the image, so I'm going to browse for the images that I want to use. And I have 2 on hand, which I select the image and I upload it. And all I need to do is give it a title. Oh boy, if I can spell chrysanthemum, C-R-Y. So I'm giving the slide a title, and I'm giving it a piece of text to display, and you'll see what that looks like in a minute. I want to add another slide, so I click Add Another Item. And I'm going to select image of koala. And then I'm going to save it. Okay, once again, this is a case of what I'm seeing the public won't see, because what I'm going to do is give the information to a real page on the system on which I want this slideshow to display. So let's go to my samples. Let me just create a new page. So I'm going to create this new page called and I'm going to give it some sample content. And I'd like to put my slideshow at the top. So what I'm going to do is position my cursor at the top of the text, and I'm going to come over here, and the last item in my toolbar is called Embed a Node. A node is a content item from the site, specifically content type of slideshow. So what I'm seeing here is a list of all the slideshows that have been created on the site. And this is the one I just created on June 4th. So I click on that and I say Embed. And in the WYSIWYG, this is what I see, some odd code that looks like that. But when I save it, oh, come on. Really? Okay, this was working yesterday. Let me see if I have a functioning slideshow page. Okay. If it were working, this is what I would see. So here's a slideshow that was created, and this is what it looks like when it's inserted into a page. So I have a navigation button. I have navigation buttons that let me go through the slideshow. So the title of the slideshow is here, and the additional text that I entered for the slideshow is here. So again, I don't think this feature exists on the current site, but it's a fun thing to use on the new site.
What we did, Kurt, on the old site, the current site, is we created slideshows in like Picasa, or that would be a good event. That's what we use, right, Chris? Not sure he's still on. Chris had done that, so we had used those. What if we have something that's a whole slideshow already?
If it's on Picasa and Picasa provides you the code to embed it in the site, then you shouldn't have any problem doing that.
Okay, so that could be like the image could be then that the slideshow into the slideshow.
Right, right.
Okay.
So in Picasa, if you created a slideshow, it would probably give you sort of in the way that I went to YouTube and I got some code that let me, that I could put into my page that automatically displayed the video from YouTube. I think Picasa works the same way, is that if you create a slideshow there, it'll give you code or a URL that you can paste into your page on this website, and it'll display that that slideshow.
Okay. We actually did, we used Picasa when we created the slideshows and exported it using a Windows Media Player. So what you're saying, though, Kurt, makes sense, and that would work better, I think.
Okay. What I did do, just to let you know, and this is just kind of showing you one of the things that we did with the site. There's a section for transcasts, which transcasts on the current site are actually. Let me go show you. She's being very slow. I think that's probably because I'm running GoToMeeting. But on the current site, I go to transcasts. I get a link that takes me to a page.
This is Transcast.
That doesn't do much. I mean, this is the whole thing. I would be listening to this Transcast and looking at a screen that looks like this. So what we decided to spiff that up a little bit. So what we did was we took the Transcasts and found images of each of the presenters, and we used Windows comes with what do they call it? The Windows Live Movie Maker, and what that enables you to do is to take an image and apply it to the audio track, and effectively turn it into what would be considered a movie, upload it to YouTube, and insert it onto your page. So there's no motion here, but it's there's a little more life to it than just a player with no images on it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So that's another option for making the content more interesting when you're transferring it. And that was just sort of a follow-up to Chris's comment about transferring things into Windows Media Player, because that's effectively what was done here. We imported the soundtrack and the image and output a WMV file, Windows Media Video file, which we subsequently uploaded to YouTube and then created that link on here.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
I couldn't find a picture of this guy. But
who is it?
Michael Onder.
Onder, oh, he's an FHWA guy. Maybe I have one.
Okay.
If I do, should I send it to you?
Yeah, send it to me and I can recreate this and re-upload it. Okay. I want to show you one other sample of content that we put on here. I pointed this out in sort of casually, but what I do want you to know is that right now on the site, under About, there's an item called Drupal Training and Sample Web Pages, and that right now includes, there's the manual from Part 1 and the training video from Part 1, but also there are a couple of sample pages on here basic page is just what it sounds like, a basic page, and just illustrates some of the kinds of things that you can do with a basic page. So if you need to know how something is done, this is a good place to go back and look. For instance, how was this image uploaded and inserted into this page? But the one that I want to show you, a lot of the content on the current site is provided with tables. And so what we've done here is just provided a sample table. This is standard theming that would be applied to a table, based on the theming of this website. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if I go to this page, I see it in the WYSIWYG editor. But if I click on disable rich text or enable rich text, disable means look at it in HTML mode. Enable means look at it in WYSIWYG mode. But so if I want to look at the HTML and copy it out, I would just say disable rich text. And then I see this view, which is the HTML code for a table. So what I could do if I wanted to is just do a cut and paste of this as just a starter for a table that I wanted to use or create on another page. One of the things I want to point out here is that, and this is an important note, I did note it in the manual, but we haven't talked about this too much, but this website is, we call it responsive, and what that means is that the design responds to different browser widths that the website finds itself on, and reformats itself accordingly. And there's actually 4 widths here to this web design. This is what we call extended desktop. If I make my browser a little smaller, you'll see that it sort of reformats itself. This would be for a really old monitor that was about 800 pixels wide. So what happens is that the browser says, oh, my display is only this wide, and if I try to display this much content, it won't fit, so it shrinks itself down a little bit. We go down one more level, and we have what we call tablet width. So on a tablet, it reformats itself to be just a little more compact. And then if we go all the way down to the last width, we have what we call the mobile theme or the mobile phone theme. And so what we're looking at here is actually the home page for the METRANS website as it would appear on a mobile phone. And so we'll see most of the content from the home page as we would here. We chose to not put the images, I'll just show you. So these images we chose to hide on the mobile with just because they take up a lot of space and they don't really say anything. We wanted things to be a little more efficient on the mobile view. But so when you go to mobile view, you do see announcements and events the same as you would on the full page. The reason I'm showing you this is because I wanted to let you know that in the case of a table, it's important to note that if you're changing the width of a column in the table, you want to use percentages rather than set numbers of pixels. And what this does is it says, okay, so on a widescreen monitor, this column is going to be 30%, this will be 70%. And it understands when it's on a smaller display that it has less physical space, but still applies the percentage. If I said like 600 and 400 here, and I shrunk it down to a browser width that was smaller than 1,000, it would not shrink down. So the point is that if you're working with tables, stick with percentages so it can shrink accordingly. That's one of my advanced tips for the day. And I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Let me see.
You had mentioned early on, are we going to be needing to have Dreamweaver?
No, you don't need to have Dreamweaver. I mentioned Dreamweaver because that was what's used to build HTML pages in the current site. So,
okay.
But so if you have Dreamweaver, you can use it to pull the HTML for instance, a project, the content of a project page. But if you don't have it, that's fine. You can just use that method that I showed you of doing a right-click in Windows and doing a view source and copying the. If you were looking at the source in Dreamweaver, it would look pretty much the same as you see when you do a view source. It would just be, have colored. The tags would be colored for easier reading for somebody who is developing with Dreamweaver. But the process of finding and selecting the HTML that you want to copy is the same, whether it's in Dreamweaver or if you're using view source in your browser.
And then you'd also mention Firefox. Use Firefox.
Oh yeah, no. I just and again I noted this in the manual, but viewing source to view source in different browsers is sometimes a different sequence of keystrokes. So the reason I mentioned Firefox is because in Firefox, what you do is specifically you do a right click and say, view page source, and then I'll see it. In let's see, if I'm using Chrome,
it's the same. It's just right click view source.
Yeah. I mean, it's a similar process, and on Mac, it's a somewhat different process. I'm not a Mac person, but I mean, you get to the same end with a different set of keystrokes. The end being that you're viewing a page with just the HTML that you want to copy and paste. So that was the only reason I referenced Firefox. It's not a requirement to use it. I wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes there's some issues with some of these different.
Right.
I have like the newest version of Internet Explorer, and sometimes I can't use it. I have to go to and use with some of the programs we have on campus here. So,
yeah.
But that's fine. I just wanted a clarification. So that's fine.
Yep. No, good question. Okay. Well, that's actually all I wanted to cover today.
All right. Good.
And I will post the video and the manual for this on the site as well. And,
all right, well, good. And what's the next training that we're talking about? What is the next subject matter?
The subject matter on that will be some advanced topics and how to, for instance, add users to the Drupal system. By the way, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to check with Jen right after this and confirm that I can give you all Drupal accounts so you can actually go in and start editing content on the system. I hadn't gotten the heads up from her yet on that. But what you'll receive in email is a notification from Drupal that you now have an account, and it'll give you a link that you can click on that'll take you into Drupal where you can set your password. I'll also just send out an email from myself to let you know that I've done it, so you're not surprised by receiving that.
Okay. Well,
okay.
yeah, and we're all in the situation where we're probably not. I don't know the plan yet for any of the additional steps once we get this, kind of ready where we can start doing stuff.
Right.
We want to be careful who's doing what. And,
right. Exactly.
And have an organized approach. So we will work on that.
We're still in the quality assurance phase of development. I mean, basically the site's developed and everything's in place, but as you can see, a couple of things aren't working as they should. We're identifying those and we're fixing those with a couple people's help. So, okay.
And Savannah, Kurt, do you want to hear like one thing that we ran into when Savannah was doing that quality?
Mm-hmm.
If Savannah's there. Maybe not.
Okay.
Okay. I was gathering some information. We were doing some testing here, and she just ran into a kind of an odd situation with her iPad. So and I'll send it. I'll have her send that, or
Okay, that'll
one
be
of us
great.
will send that over to you. And
that'll be great.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's actually part of the quality assurance testing process, is to test this on different devices, which we have done. But if we missed anything, we definitely want to know about it.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay. Okay. Right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.